Hi there, Dr. Joseph Martin again. Very powerful, positive, hopeful, and heartfelt, sincere thanks to you for watching this one. And I'm hoping that you're going to be just feeling in your heart the positivity and the power of what you can be and do to activate the best possible life for yourself and for all your loved ones. The three action steps for our future are things that we all need to consider. They are environmental activism, social justice, and indigenous truths. I'll just say those again. Environmental activism, social justice, and indigenous truths. Now, in terms of the environment, we know very well that there's a logic, there's a science to all of this, that things have been changing for quite a while now, and we've been aware of it, but we just like to keep our heads in the sand, unfortunately for us, because that's never a wise, nor logical, nor rational thing to do. I would like to inspire each and every one of us to stop feeling so dormant about this and so unappreciated with your own thoughts and feelings and so hopeless about it all, to turn it into something that, whether or not you ever knew or thought you might want to be an activist, by virtue of the fact that you are a human being and you do have a role to play here on planet Earth, for the sake of yourself, if not for your significant others and your loved ones, and the 7 generations of your descendants to come, it's a wise thing now to move forward and take some kind of positive step for yourself. I would highly recommend that you read any or all of the books by Rachel Carson, who she was one of the very first people in America many decades ago to write about this. Unfortunately, she died of cancer. That was one of the reasons she got into environmental activism itself. As a clinician, as a medical energy medicine doctor, medical anthropologist, and as a psychologist, in the over 40 years that I was actually seeing clients, when I started to see clients, 1 in 7 in Canada, in the world, were getting cancer and dying from it. Now, after all these years of all the medical research and all the work that we've all done on this regard, it's clear that the statistics are worse than ever, 1 in 2. And that's not a good thing to understand or experience. Many of you, like myself, have probably lost significant others and family members and close friends to cancer. It's not a good or pleasant experience to have. And if you're a young person, you think that you're immune to all these health concerns, well, I'd ask you to use some wisdom, inner wisdom, and say, there are some things that you can do to better yourself and make sure that you have a healthy life and a long life. Nobody's immune to these health issues if all the things that happen by pouring toxins into the waters, the earth, the air, and so on, realize that everything's a system and will come back to us eventually. I remember one gentleman in my psychology clinics. I've had the good fortune to work with many of the Canadian billionaires and millionaires, either in the nouveau riche or the long-landed families here in Canada. And this one young gentleman in his early 50s, this is many decades ago now, a billionaire, realized that the cancers that he had in his body were due to not only the way he dealt with his food that he ate and where he lived, all the DDT that was poured on the sides of the roadsides in the 50s and early 60s in the central provinces of our country, caused the cancers that he eventually died from and had to give up all his homes and toys and so on. It's pause to think that nobody, particularly even the rich or anyone, can be immune to these things if we don't deal with this. So this basic call to consciousness around environmental activism is actually meant for all of us, but I'm actually speaking to the elite, the wealthy, the ones who are in power at this time. I'd like to suggest that we know from the laws of physics, the laws of astronomy and history and biology, that there are always cycles in time to wherever we are in our life. And so that you may be wealthy now, but it may not be very useful to you when there's no clean water to drink, healthy food to eat, and everything else falls apart and disintegrates because of the viruses that we're putting, I mean, symbolically and in actuality, the viruses that we're putting into the whole world. Viruses in our mind as well as into our bodies from what's going on. I'd suggest and highly recommend, if you've never read any of the books like On Walden Pond by Thoreau, or any of the books by any of the early people from the early last century in America, then I would suggest that you go back and take a re-look at those. Those are very powerful and positive books. Social justice, well, again, and this is a call for those of us who may have in our societies, reached some pinnacle of wealth or power or prestige, that, again, the cycles do change and they will change. The fact that we're inconsiderate of people who may be dispossessed or poor or sick or lonely or homeless or racially profiled or ethnic minorities or religious minorities, women in particular, single women, and all these people in our world who are asking for support and a helping hand, and in fact higher education, it only is suitable to think of them as your sisters and your brothers. You would likely do this for your own son or your daughter or your sister or your brother. And so it behooves us to actually do this for everybody, knowing that what you give out will always come back. It's clear from past civilizations that have come and gone and come and gone and come and gone, too numerous to mention, that unless and until we do something changing it up and switching it up in this world, in our civilization, then we too could go the way of the dodo bird. Nelson Mandela, I think, is one of the great people that we're all celebrating this time. His celebration of life is actually tomorrow in South Africa. So with him, we'd like to shed some light on all of these topics and actually bring the light forward from our hearts into the world, and to, with a great amount of compassion and kindness, realize that we need to support all our sisters and brothers worldwide. The third issue is Indigenous truths. Well, some of us may have some experience with living off the land, living with the animals, co-creating some kind of sustainable culture and growing our own food and so on, as I have for many decades in my life. I would suggest that it would be a smart idea and a wise thing for all of us, parents and children of any background, to start to learn some survival skills. I'm sure this will come in very handy now and in the near future for all kinds of reasons: economic, geographic, historical, climatic, and on and on and on. So these indigenous truths for millions of years have been brought forward as ancient wisdom by all our First Nations and indigenous peoples worldwide. Get to know some of them and study the sacred ways of how to relate to Mother Earth and to the plants, the animals, the trees, the elements, and so on, so that you will be able to survive successfully in times to come. I'd like to suggest that, somehow we've been sold a bill of goods when we realize that business and science in our times have created a mandate for themselves to control and dominate and use nature, and have done so quite successfully, to the detriment of themselves and to nature, obviously, and to everyone around us. Again, I would ask all of those in power, that is the outer power, to look at all these possibilities and see that these things cannot last. These mandates that we've taken on for ourselves in this social cultural system are things that do need to change, and the wisdom and the wise man and woman will make sure that they change and actually come around to the point of view with all your knowledge to realize that the best thing for sustainability for all of us on the planet going forward in our future for great success is to take these 3 action steps sincerely and together in communities and groups and cooperatives to come together and make a plan for a better world. Well, many have said it better than I, but I'd like to say Om Namah Shivaya to all of you. And if you have any new thoughts on this, I'd be happy to hear from you. I wish you well in your successful, hopeful choice to move forward in your lives, to take action, and to move. In these turbulent times, it's best to get out of the sidelines of the side of the river and move with the flow and go with it. Times are changing. We're getting to a tipping point, and your voice of action, love, compassion, and kindness and respect can be added to the tipping points that we move into the great choice for higher wisdom now. All love and blessings to you. See you again soon.